I'm reading this awesome book, Low Back Disorders from Dr. Stuart McGill,
Yes.
and it's such a powerful book. And the beautiful thing about it is through Dan John, I was able to manage to get him on the podcast, Dr. Stuart McGill,
Wow.
and then we're gonna talk about all these critical things. Rotational kettlebell exercises. We last time we talked about it. And you know what Dan John said? Because I asked him again, because this question keeps popping up, and we always get these that feedback in the comments, and people are asking us. Yesterday we had a seminar, and then one participant asked, "Why are you critical of these rotational exercises?" So I'm really looking forward to this conversation with Dr. Stuart McGill. And Dan John said he thinks rotational stuff is a huge problem for the spine, and he doesn't like it. And then I asked him, I said, well, but you were throwing the discus. You were a discus thrower. So he said, yeah. So I said, so you're saying the discus is problematic for your back, for your spine? He says, yes. But it brought me around the world. And I've built my career on it. So that's the risk to benefit ratio, right? So it's a different ballgame.
Yeah, it's like plastic surgery for models and actors, right? So you
Great.
do it and you spend lots of money on it, but then you get paid for the jobs that you get, right? So it's a book I'm currently reading about this. You get to travel around the world, you get to star in different movies, but if an average person spends thousands and thousands out of their paycheck on plastic surgery, but at the same time their kids go uneducated and they go hungry, I mean, then that just is silly, right?
Mm.
So with rotational stuff, it's the same. It's the risk to benefit ratio is such that you can get seriously injured, but if your reward is to win a competition and then travel around the world and then spend whatever money that you have won partially on physios, then that's completely fine and it's justified, and that's what Olympic athletes
Oh,
do as well, right?
justified. That's the word I was looking for. Justified. Yeah. You're so
Yeah,
you're so right.
and it's just cost to benefit, really. That's all it is. It's just again economic analysis,
Yeah.
justifying on.
And I was when I was editing your video, I was you, you probably can't imagine how many times I quoted stuff from you from our podcast. One of the biggest things that stuck with me was the skill transfer thing. And Chandler Marchman, who also has a big YouTube channel on kettlebells, he said he calls it training economy.
I like it.
Yeah.
Can
Uh,
you tell
tra-
me about it?
yeah, he said training economy means, because we talked about he has a strongman background, right? So he has he says the typical meathead background, right? So when he transferred into kettlebells, he just found, well, if I invest that much time and prioritize my workouts, which take a lot of time, then I'm leaving my family behind. I'm not there for my wife. I'm not there for my kids. So I have to find something. So he said the kettlebell gives me what I say a lot. He said it gives me a lot of bang for my buck. So that means my training economy makes more sense. So my training is more efficient time-wise, and of course the benefits and the reward that I'm getting from it. And so he says, I'm getting a lot done with kettlebells, and this training economy serves me well with not only my business, the business that he has now, but also with the time that he's able to spend with his family. And so I said, that's kind of a similar concept that you mentioned, skill transfer. So how much transfer do you get out of your training system, not only to your athleticism, but also to your everyday life?
Mm. Yeah, I like that training economy. I'm going to start using that.
Yeah, we're all, I'm starting so, hey, I cannot tell you, I'm starting to use these words from all you guys that I'm having conversations with. For example, I had Steve Cotter on a recent podcast, and he mentioned one thing that really blew my mind. I used to came up with 7 benefits of kettlebell training. Now they're up to 10. And one of those benefits was what Steve mentioned. So I wonder if you heard about it, or if you haven't, what you make out of it. He said, and I wrote it down. I gotta check my notes because I wrote it down, or I had to paraphrase what he said. So he said, kettlebells allow you to move without you having to hold the weight. This unique capability empowers you to load your frame in a way that leverages biomechanical efficiency.
I haven't heard it put that way before, but the reason why kettlebells train endurance as a weight, right? Kettlebell is a weight, but you can train endurance with it, is because if you're holding any other weight, you would fatigue your grip. But with a kettlebell, you don't.
That's it. That's the idea. It's the same. Again, it's the same. And I see when I talk. Yeah, keep going.
So I found the other day I went I carried a kettlebell up a mountain. We went hiking and we took a kettlebell with us.
Wow.
And there are many ways that you can carry a kettlebell. So I find that the easiest way is to carry it overhead. I actually don't like carrying it in my hand. And then you can carry it on your shoulder, or you can carry it in the rack, the evilest possible way. You can of course carry it by your side. But the fact that you can carry it in so many different ways, and you're continuously putting a load on your body is excellent. And that's why what I think Steve means is that you can load your body with a kettlebell in so many different ways, not necessarily by fatiguing your grip every single time. So you can hold it for longer. You can carry it for longer.
Exactly. That's exactly it. So, and yesterday when we had that seminar, when I was sharing, I call it now the kettlebell hybrid style. I think after talking to Steve again, after talking to Fitbrit, after talking to you, I think when we compare, and I wonder what you make out of this, when we compare kettlebell sport and hardstyle, I always like to make that comparison that kettlebell sport is like rock climbing. You need endurance and you need strength, but probably a little bit more endurance. And hardstyle I consider as hockey, where you also need endurance, but you need a lot more explosiveness. So you're not able to go as long. That's why in hockey you have these teams that switch out every now and then. And so with the hybrid style that I think that you engage in, I think Fitbrit engages in, and I believe that Steve Cotter was one of the first Americans when he went to the States, because he shared the story with me. He said in 2005, I think he and 5 other Americans went to Russia, and then that was the first time they were exposed to, I mean, you've been exposed early. I mean, you're Russian, so you can share your story in that regard. But Steve said, so they came with this idea of snatching the way it was taught when Pavel taught it to him. And then they saw Denisov breaking the world record with 220 or something snatches with only one arm switch with 32 kilograms. So then it was like, whoa, that was a new world for them. It was like a revelation. Wow, what's going on? What's going on? Wow, that's completely different. So now I believe with the hybrid, which I love this description, is you use both worlds. And I believe you do the same too, right?
Yeah.
So what you make out of this idea of this hybrid style?
I don't know enough about it. I use both. And sometimes if it's I think you've seen my half pentathlon video. So I used a combination, well, as you said, a hybrid style. So it's somewhat Gerboy and somewhat hardstyle. The thing that I find difficult is teaching people, because if a person is learning a style and depending on what they want out of their fitness, I find that it's much easier to teach them hardstyle. And for most people, that's all they need. They need hardstyle because they just want quick workouts that they can do in 20 to 30 minutes and then get out. With Gary Voi's style, you have to train for longer. I mean, Gary Voy athletes train for 90 minutes plus. And they also use barbell, and they use other implements to strengthen their legs, to strengthen their core, to do heavy lifting. So they use a kettlebell, but they also use all the other things. And for example, things like kettlebell complexes and Turkish get up and hardstyle swing. Those things, they improve your strength. And without them, Russian kettlebell athletes, they just use barbells. Every single Russian kettlebell athlete uses other implements, not just the kettlebell.
As a GPP,
like
right?
High level athlete. It's just, that's just what you do, right? Because it's athletics. You have to use every single tool in your arsenal. But if a person is training from home and all they have literally is a bunch of kettlebells, like 3 kettlebells or 4 kettlebells at home, their time is best spent learning hardstyle and training hardstyle, just because it's short, sharp, in and out, and you're done.
Great.
But if the person really loves the movement, and I have a few clients who love the movement, they love the flowing movement of Gary Voy, and they want to learn the style, they want to invest the time, because it takes longer to learn the Gary Voy style. It's much more subtle movement. It requires a bit more mobility. It requires a bit more body awareness as well, because Gary Voy style, there is a bit of a letting go of the shoulder. There is a bit more rotation, but it's controlled rotation. Do you know how many people can do controlled rotation? Not many. So before you teach them controlled rotation, you have to teach them resisting rotation.
Wow. We had, and as a small side note, please keep your thoughts. As a small side note, we had that conversation yesterday in the seminar when I was talking about the clean. And then we had this exact conversation about rotation, where you bring the kettlebell in the backswing from the rack. So you drop it. So you go into rotation for full efficiency for your energy capacity, right? So I told them, I said, yes, it is a technique. But I believe most of us, especially when we get tired, are not able to make that differentiating factor between rotating the T-spine and stopping your lower spine from rotating. So it's best, like you're saying now, I said it's best to resist the rotation, to work with anti-rotation. So it's awesome when I'm getting confirmation of what I'm saying from guys like you. That's awesome. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's easier for the person who doesn't have much time. But again, I have people who have much time. They just love kettlebells. They're in love with kettlebells. They have plenty of time to train, and they are willing to invest that time to practice, to stretch, to mobilize, to do some drills, and then they progress, of course. But again, it just depends on the person, what they want. So with the hybrid, I absolutely love it. Like, I love being able to switch between the two. But what I find is that if I give it to someone who is just entering the kettlebell world, they get so confused. They
Most
just
definitely.
become crap at everything.
Yeah, most definitely.
And it scares them. So I've had a few people try to go into Gary Voy, for example, but they do kettlebells for fitness, and then they realize that it is less efficient at delivering them the results, and then they try to go back to hardstyle and they find it difficult. So it's difficult to switch to people who are not athletes. Like you and me, we're probably athletes, so it's easier for us to switch. We have body awareness, but for a lot of people it's not the case, because they didn't spend that much time maybe as kids playing sports or dancing or whatever, and so it is a challenge. So that's why I'm quite glad that hardstyle was invented and created. That makes it easier for the general public to use kettlebells. Most definitely.
What you're saying makes a lot of sense, and that's why I believe there is a certain, let's say, like a certain niche where you start, and that's where I'm kind of like, I feel like I'm naturally gravitating towards that line, to implement both ideas in one package and deliver it in a way that gives the practitioner the most bang for the buck in time spent and of course the increased learning curve. I mean, what you're saying is most definitely right. When we had one client, she was working 3 months with us. We were doing deadlifts, press, squats. And then after 4 weeks, we switched the deadlift with the swing. Swing, press, squat. So what I found interesting was in her case is she doesn't have a lot of body awareness, so she has some, I wouldn't say issues. She's just cognitive, probably stronger than kinesthetically, right? So she's kinesthetically not as gifted, which is, that's not a problem. That's not a plus or a minus. It's just a fact, right? So after realizing how much trouble the swing gave her, it was clear to me that no cleans, no snatches, because it's not necessary. We stick with the swing. And we have a prowler. We have some easy stuff where you can push and pull, some farmer's walks, stuff like this. So where I see the hybrid application is where you go and pick because the fluent motion of a clean, we had a coaching session from Luca where he taught us the snatch and the clean. And for me, because I'm now completely immersed in the Gabrielle style, in the kettlebell sports style of cleaning and snatching, it felt strange. It felt strange in a way where he was teaching me and that was the only thing that felt strange. That's interesting that I noticed it, because the hardstyle swing felt awesome, but the clean and the snatch was kind of tricky. So I didn't get the idea of, dropping the kettlebell into the backswing in that zipper idea, right? So you go down straight,
yes,
instead of going in an arch. And that was pretty interesting to me. I was like, wow, that feels completely different. And what is your take on this? How does do you think the hardstyle clean feels the same for you like it feels in the kettlebell sport?
No. Oh, no, absolutely not.
Do you prefer one over the other?
Yes, I prefer hardstyle clean.
Interesting.
I prefer the hardstyle clean.
Wow.
The Gabrielle clean, I find it easy and relaxing, and I can hang out forever in the rack position with Gabrielle. With hardstyle, I can simply clean more. That's it. So it allows me to clean more. I remember when
heavier weights, heavier weights, or more in reps. Okay.
More heavy, so heavier weights.
Yeah.
So if I'm doing, I actually prepare for Gabrielle competitions by doing some hardstyle cleans.
Yeah, you mentioned this the last time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just find, because it's harder, the rack is much more challenging, and the hardstyle allows you to, it makes you move the weight in a straight line.
Yeah.
That's why the zip and unzip thing.
Yeah.
So the kettlebell path is much more efficient, and because you're using more power, it's more fast twitch muscles. They tire faster, of course, because you're using more power.
Yes.
So that's why you can lift more, but you can lift it fewer times. And because I like strength training, I prefer the hardstyle clean.
Interesting.
But for Gabrielle style, if I need to lift it many times, I'm intelligent enough to do it Gabrielle style, because if I'm using hardstyle for doing many cleans, I'll just die. It's doing
most definitely. Yeah. So wow.
So it's just whether your goal is to lift a heavy weight like 3 or 5 times, or your goal is to lift a lighter weight for 10 minutes. So it's just that.
Wow. And that's interesting, because I love just the natural flow of the kettlebell sport, where you go into the arch and you're melting with the kettlebell. And in hardstyle, it's like the kettlebell's your enemy. At least that's what it feels for me. Most definitely. Well, that's interesting. So, You know, where I totally understand where you're coming from, especially, I mean, we teach beginners as well. And maybe 10% of our clients are snatching in a kettlebell sport snatch. The rest is just the idea to bring it up there, and we mostly do half snatches. Bring it up, rack it, go down in the backswing and bring it up. So I do see your applications. And maybe with the hybrid that you're also engaging in is something where I believe the hybrid leaves out the most complicated exercises. When we were doing the snatch, the hardstyle snatch, I told Angie, I don't like this gooseneck idea. Where you drop the bell and then you pull it down. I still enjoy the corkscrew idea where you rotate the bell around. But then we tried to kind of mix it, which also works. But in my case, and this is probably where we differ, and that's a very interesting perspective, I love the hardstyle swing. But I don't like the other ones. And I have a strength training background as well. Lifting, bodybuilding, that's my thing. So yeah, it's interesting how we differ in that regard.
But that's where individual differences are so good, because you're going to tailor the way you train to what you like doing. And I always say that, like if we talk about programming today, for example, you got to, most of your stuff, most of the movement that you do should be the movement that you like doing. Because again, unless you're getting paid for it, or unless you're being forced in a totalitarian regime, I don't know, unless you're getting paid for it, then there is no point doing something that you hate, right? So if you really love doing training in a mixed style or a hard style or a gear voice style, just do it. As long as you don't cause yourself injury, just do it. Because I mean, nowadays it's a bigger problem for people to train at all rather than to train in any particular style.
Oh, most definitely. And yesterday in the seminar we said this as well. It was like, listen, when people finally make time to work out, because for many people working out is not a priority, that's just a fact, then they have to get the most benefit out of the time they carved out of their week. Because otherwise it's like, wow, now you finally make time and now you're wasting it, right? With exercises that you don't need. Yeah, it's most definitely the same. And the justification, if it's justified, I think that's a huge part. It's like, is it justified to put your spine in danger? Yes, it is, because that's my job and that's the money that I'm getting and blah, blah, blah. But for most people, probably not. And it's a great analogy that you brought up with the actors who do all sorts of things, but they have to a certain degree, probably they have to be at that level where most of us never have to be at. Great analogy.
Yeah, even the things like, for example, I have a few friends who are actors, and they have to gain weight, lose weight, gain muscle, get emaciated. It's a huge stress on their endocrine system. It's very stressful for their metabolism, and they pay for it later on. So they do all sorts of sessions with nutritionists and restorative medicine afterwards. But they get paid the big bucks for it, so it's fine. But when a regular person, like a mother or a lady who just gave birth and then she's trying to get back into shape, and then she goes on some crazy mental diet or a boot camp or some sort of insane, even with kettlebells, high intensity interval training program just so she can get back into shape. But the thing is, the fallout of that, who is going to pick up the pieces? Because she doesn't make money from it, so she just gets all this and she thinks that it's going to be a quick fix, but it's the cost of that is really high. I've actually been asked to discuss burnout and what people experience when they follow really high intensity programming, because apparently I've been told by some of my clients, people don't know this. They don't know that it's possible to and very common to burn out and to cause yourself harm by following high intensity training programs, including kettlebell programs
most definitely
that are aimed at fat loss, especially fat loss. People try to get themselves into shape, and things like in the past there used to be P90X or insanity protocols where people train for 90 minutes or they train many days a week, and then it
Absolutely
gives them
crazy.
fast result, but then they come crashing and burning down, and then they start hating exercise, or they're stressed, or they are injured. And what it creates is this vicious cycle of a person of like a relationship with exercise, like it's a punishment, or that it's something horrible that you have to do, and you have to sort of grit your teeth and white knuckle your way through it. And again, going back to people, the hardest thing is actually to be consistent with training for the rest of your life. I think that as far as programming for that is concerned, it should take priority that the person does A, what they like, and B, what they can see themselves doing for a very long time. And not only see themselves in their imagination, because remember, people live in fantasy land, but they actually can empirically see that they are doing it. Like if a person says, oh, you know what, I have just come up with this program and I'm going to be doing it 6 days a week, and I'm doing this in the morning, this in the evening, I'm like, okay, let's see how,
For how long?
let's do this for a week. And then the next week the person goes, well, I have done Monday, and then I didn't do anything, and then I did another one on Saturday. I'm like, okay, well,
awesome.
implementation rate of this plan is 20%.
Yes.
So we need to tweak it. And
yes. Great.
and that's totally fine. And I think the other sort of issue that we can have is the black and white thinking with people when they are designing themselves a training protocol, or coming up with something with some kind of regime for training. And the black and white thinking is they subscribe to some sort of protocol. So they maybe see something online, or one of us coaches recommends something, and then they subscribe to it, and then they sort of try to wrangle their life into that protocol. And if it doesn't fit, then they either quit everything and then stop exercising and they say, oh, nothing works. Or they try to completely reschedule their life around it and get really, really stressed. But the thing is, what I would recommend to a person who is trying to set up a kettlebell training program for fat loss or for muscle gain, get back into shape, is to approach it like a software designer approaches beta testing. So you have a gadget or a widget, and then you create it, you roll out beta version, and then you have people test it, and then they give you all sorts of feedback.
Yes.
And then you roll out, you take on the feedback, you roll out version 2.0, and then that version 2.0 floats around, and then you get feedback, and then you pull
That's
out
how
version 3.0.
things improve. Yeah.
If people approach their programming like a beta, then they take it, then they test it for a week or two. If it works, if it fits their life, they keep it. If it doesn't, they just tweak it. It's okay to tweak things. And because I think that the black and white thinking of thinking you just have to either do it or not it's ruining a lot of people's consistency.
Wow.
You've got to just think. I've learned this concept many years ago. I went to some sort of seminar, and I don't even remember the seminar, what it was about. Okay. All I remember is walking away with this notion of living your life in beta. Is that if some concept, you're trying to apply it, and it's a good concept, but it doesn't quite match, the whole thing doesn't quite fit into your life, well, tweak it until it does fit, right?
Most definitely.
So if you know that walking is good, well, start walking and try half an hour a day. If it's working, keep it. If it's not working, reduce it, play around with it, but you already know that walking is good. So make sure that you do it, but in a way that works for you, right?
Most definitely. Wow. Yeah, and people approach it, that's a great analogy. People approach their workout regimen like it's the alpha version. And no adjustments allowed. And you probably get these messages as well, I bet. We get messages like, hey Gregory, is it okay if I XXXX? I'm like, well, give it a shot. See how your body reacts, and then adjust. In very rare cases, rare, I I recently made a video, 10 of the worst kettlebell exercises that you can do. And because the funny thing is, and I had this great conversation, or this great topic, we covered this topic with Chandler. And what I came up with, and let me quote you this because I'm writing this stuff down. I have to see, yes. There is a complementary nature of proper training modalities. A complementary nature of proper training modalities. So the barbell is the knife. The kettlebell is the fork. The dumbbell is a spoon. And strongman is a plate. Of course, you can try to eat. I said this recently, and it was I got some great feedback off of it. I was like, if you treat the kettlebell like a dumbbell, you're trying to eat a steak with a spoon. Doesn't work. Oh, you can. Not it doesn't work. Well, if you punch the spoon hard enough, you can.
Yeah.
But efficiency is the question. So we came up with this, and we said. Now that's my definition, which fits perfectly because I'm located in the country. I'm saying the kettlebell is the Swiss knife of training modalities. Because it's able to do a lot, but we're naive to believe that it does everything the best way. That's impossible. And yesterday in a seminar, I said this, and the feedback at the end was like, wow, somebody said, I really enjoyed that you were honest about it. I mean, we know you're passionate and you're on fire for kettlebells, but you didn't walk in like that's the best thing. And with Chandler, we had the same conversation. It was like, hey, a barbell, maximum strength. Dumbbell, I will call it functional hypertrophy work. Awesome. Kettlebells does everything to a certain extent that we can say, yes, that's really, really great.
Well, it's a Swiss knife, but you wouldn't cut a steak with a Swiss knife.
So I said the same.
Knife,
yeah,
right?
I said the same yesterday.
If you're a chef, you wouldn't be chopping your vegetables perfectly with a Swiss knife, right?
No.
You can if you're hiking, and you generally can, but you wouldn't. So kettlebell is like it's available for everything, but it is a tool for a non-specialist. Let's just call it that.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Tool for a non-specialist.
That's why I moved from CrossFit into kettlebells, because CrossFit is a activity that is all about not being a specialist. It's about being a generalist. It's about being good at many things, but not amazing at any one thing. If you watch CrossFit Games, you see that they have to be good across many disciplines, but they're not. If they compete with a professional gymnast, they would suck. If they compete with professional weightlifter, they would lose. But across many disciplines, they come on top because they're adequate at every one of them.
Yeah.
With kettlebells, it's really similar. So that part of CrossFit, I really enjoyed. The fact that to be well-rounded, it's like being well-rounded.
Yeah.
So you have basic stamina, you have basic strength, you have basic mobility. Because it's good. It's injury prevention. It's healthy. It's just basic general physical preparedness, GPP, right?
Yeah.
And that's what kettlebell is. Kettlebell is the GPP of the fitness world. It's a GPP tool. And because of that, when it comes to kettlebell sport, things like your clean and jerk and your snatch and so forth, it is not a GPP tool. It is now an SPP. So it's
SPP.
Special preparedness, right? It's a sport.
Wow.
And it's the same as when CrossFit became a sport, and then that creates excessive strain on the body in a way. So because CrossFit started as a discipline for everyday person to be fit, it just had 10 physical skills that you can have. So you have your strength, endurance, flexibility, stamina,
all these,
balance, coordination, agility, all those things. And then you just try to make sure that you're basically good at all of them. You don't
which is a great thing, which is a very, I think, a very great idea behind it. Yeah,
it's beautiful. But then it sort of morphed into a sport, a spectator sport. And of course, when you have a spectator sport, you have to have more and more spectacular things and more intensity and more wild stuff going on. So then it just sort of became scary. But the basic notion of CrossFit is very good. And it actually started in garages. It's a grassroots fitness movement. Started in garages with minimal equipment. Like all you had was I think a barbell and a pull-up bar. Even some people didn't have barbells. They just have a dumbbell and box and a pull-up bar. And only later did it acquire all these ridiculous machines. Like the last CrossFit gym I was competing for, they had ergs, and they had the skiing machine that looks like you're skiing down the slopes, and they have the crazy bike with handles, you know, the
the air bike. I had that stuff too.
I had that stuff too. And it's like it completely departed from the whole idea of minimalist all-around fitness that CrossFit was originally. And that's why I sort of left. I'm like, well, this is no longer what I came in here for. But kettlebells is still that. Kettlebells still provide that basic minimalist fitness, of course, when they're combined with body weight and jump rope and walking and hiking and all that stuff.
Amen. And I just had recently, I had an awesome workout. And it was inspired by Dan John. He said, pick up a kettlebell, go to your place where you want to work out. So you do a farmer's walk, then you do some stuff, some swings, some clean and jerks, and then you walk back home with a kettlebell. So I was inspired. I was like, okay, let's do it. I did a 7-minute farmer's walk with a 16 kilo. I've switched hands until our workout park. And then I did 3 minutes of swings, hybrid swings where you're hinging only. Oh, and I have something that I need to show you. I'm looking forward to your feedback. I really need your feedback on that idea. So I was doing swings, hand to hand. And then when the 3 minutes stopped, the second 3 minutes started. And then I did 5 pull-ups, 5 dips, recovery, rest. Get back at it. 5 pull-ups, 5 dips, recovery. And then I managed to bang out 3 sets of these in 2 minutes. And then stop and break and have it relax. And then go back at it again. And that was such a powerful workout. So easy and so minimalist. And what you mentioned about CrossFit, Dan John said this as well. He said he read something in a critic said something that stuck with him. He said, a problem arises when an idea becomes central instead of a supplement.
Can you elaborate?
He said, I think the movie or the episode was The Office. And I'm not familiar with The Office, but he said, they did stuff, or I can give you a better example of Walking Dead. You know the series Walking Dead?
Walking Dead?
Yeah, Walking Dead with the zombies and okay, you know that. Okay, I'm just. Or Breaking Bad with Walter White?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So, but that's a bad example because these seasons are all good. So I gotta switch to Walking Dead. So for example, in Walking Dead, you had this idea of people are scared. It's a zombie outbreak, and then you have these intimate stories with these folks. But the zombies are the main core, the main idea, right? So, in my opinion, at least, in Walking Dead, they started deviating so far from the zombie thing that the zombies weren't relevant in one of the other seasons or episodes. And then it was like, you miss the central theme. Because they took an idea and created it as a central piece of the storyline instead of just a supplement. And that's the problem, because you mentioned this with CrossFit. So the central idea was get better at these 10 facets of training or life and sports in general, right? Flexibility training, strength, endurance, blah, blah. That's the central idea. Now, a supplement could be that sometimes we'll have a competition and have fun with it. But the CrossFit Games became central, switching the whole system, and that's why you left. So that's what Dan John said. He said you run into a problem if you have an idea incorporated in an existing system, and people subscribe to that system because of one central focal point. And now you take that new idea and bring it in as a new central point instead of a supplement. That's when you start to lose people, right?
Oh, Dan John is great at
Dan John is a
paring
beast,
down
man. Yeah.
the nonsense. It's
Yeah.
like if you get so mired in the novelty and all these new things, and your head is just full of stuff, go and read Dan John, and then you just feel a brand new person with a fresh brain.
Or you watch one of our podcasts with him and hear him talk. He's like, in the last episode, I said, Dan, I feel like I'm talking to my dad. And then we have folks in the comment sections like, he's all our dads. Yeah, that's what he is. And I would just want to pivot back to two things that you said, Kat. About the kettlebell sport, the idea where I see the hybrid philosophy come in. And that's what puzzled Dennis Vasilev when I had a coaching session with him. I remember that vividly. We had the conversation and blah, blah, blah. So we were talking about the snatch, about the jerk, blah, blah. So he had in mind that I wanted to prepare for a competition. So that's the setting of 10 minutes a snatch. So that means if you want to go pro, I got to choose the 32. I have one arm switch, so my grip has to be right. The technique has to be perfect, blah, 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 blah. Until I told him, well, we use kettlebell sport in sort of a circuit system. I do kettlebell sport snatch for 2 minutes. Then we switch to a clean and jerk for 2 minutes. That's 1 minute left, 1 minute right. And then we switch to a goblet squat for 2 minutes. That's our base system that we use. 3 exercises for 2 minutes each. That's 6 minutes of volume. And then you have 1 minute break. That's 7 minutes. And then you do 3 to 4 rounds. And you have a great workout. That's our coaching philosophy. And that puzzled him. I was like, oh, now I get it. You use kettlebell sport for a circuit system, not for a competition. And I was like, yeah, that's what I do. And that's where I believe the hybrid style comes in, or where I see a lot more applicability. Because yes, if we have a beginner or a person step up to the plate, do a clean and jerk, let's say single-handed, clean and jerk, for 10 minutes straight, then you need a lot of coaching. You need the perfect rest position. You need to really understand the hand insertion, the finger grip, hook grip, in the top fixation. You really have to use all these efficient tools. But if you do it for 2 minutes only, you don't have to be as perfect with it. So that's where I believe the hybrid methodology that Steve taught me, that I got from Steve, is you use the kettlebell sport, but in a general fitness sense of way, not in the competition way. So that's maybe sort of.
So if you don't mind me asking, what is the rationale behind your programming? So behind the format of the workouts that you prescribe?
The 2 minutes, and the 3 exercises.
2 minutes,
yeah,
and then rest.
We usually went to a sort of a system like the MRAP system or MSAP system, where I had 5 exercises, and then we had a certain given of time limit, and then we were doing the MRAP or MSAP system with 5 exercises. So what I realized in the group coaching, even in the personal training as well, that people couldn't memorize the exercises. It was just too much. So then we boiled it down to 4. And ultimately now we boiled it down to 3. So what I now have is when people walk in and they know our basics, we have maximum efficiency. We go in, they know it's swing, it's deadlift, it's squat. We're ready. Warm up. Let's go. We don't do and the coaching, of course, in the personal training is way more intense. And in the group setting, you always have to, make the best out of what you have. And we have maximum 6 people. Because as soon as I go above 6, I don't see the mistakes anymore. I saw it yesterday with 15 people. It's almost impossible. I mean, you probably have the same experience. So another reason why I started implementing this idea was I found out, okay, if we only choose 3 exercises, that's one big factor taking care of the complex idea of training. If we have too many exercises, and people come to us from the typical gym, where it's like I have to do 10 machines. That's boring, then I have to switch, blah, blah. And so that's why the 3 is now the perfect number. Another thing that I realized why I started to incorporate time was when people were working out. So for example, they were doing a swing, and then you do the cueing, right? So you start giving cues: chest up, hinge, stand tall. You know, it's in German. It works a little different, but and then give them some motivation. And because I'm a natural motivator, I'm like I burn, and people feel the fire. That's what I do. And you know, as a side note, I sometimes have to really decrease my motivation, because then people sometimes go above the limit. So I had to realize, like, hey, you can't push them too hard, because even if they love it, it's sometimes too much, right? So that's the nuance of coaching. So I recognized I always start miscounting, because I used to do reps, the typical reps and set system. And when I started cueing, I was like, oh, what's it now? 5? Is it 6? Is it 7? Is it 8? And then I started miscounting. 5. Okay, come on, stand up, chest up. 9. Oh, it's 8. I'm sorry. So that messed up my cueing so bad that I completely ditched the rep system. And I was like, let's work for time. And then I can give you cues, and we have one audio cue that is a signal, ding, ding, ding. We're done, put the bell down, relax, recover. Let's do some coaching, let's do some adjusting, and let's get back at it. That's
interesting. It reminds me of when I prepare for giveaway competition. I do it just once a year, and then I do a 1 minute of snatching, for example, or 2 minutes of snatching. I can zone out, and I can listen to a podcast as I'm doing it.
Awesome.
Because I don't need to count reps.
Yeah.
But in all the other training, I guess I can also listen to a podcast, but I have to count reps. So all my other training is rep based. So Hardstyle is very short numbers of reps. Of course, it's like 5 to 10.
And as a side note, of course, when we implement a Hardstyle swing, we go for reps. So then it's like, and you know, the beautiful thing is I've started incorporating a mixed system, and I call it sets for time. So what I started with, because I realized, listen, if we do double deadlifts with 232s for the stronger ones that we have, or let's say like women 224s or 28s, right? Then of course we're not able to work the full 2 minutes repping it out. It's not even healthy for the lower back. And what I don't want people to get is, I don't want them to get the vibe of, you have to push through these 2 minutes and destroy yourself as long as the timer is going. So what I started implementing was, let's do sets of 5. You relax. The timer keeps going. Don't get stressed out for the timer. It's just our format that we know how long we're gonna work. And then you do sets of 5. One set of 5. You relax. You recover. You give your back some relaxation, and then you go back after it, and then you work for another set of 5, and then the funny thing is, in 2 minutes, you work at around 10 to 15 reps, or 10 to 12, which is a great philosophy of training that we all know: sets of 8, sets of 10, sets of 5. So it works beautifully in this time setting. Or when we incorporate push-ups, we say, okay, let's do some push-ups in 2 minutes. Don't burn yourself out. You do 5 beautiful ones with a lot of quality, and then you rest. You keep breathing, and then you go after it again. And maybe it's not 5 anymore, you go down, but 5 is the maximum number. I never let people do more as soon as we start working with heavier weights. So then rep counting comes in, but I keep the reps low. And I think sets of 5 is something that I heard from Starting Strength is a very good number. So I've started to really create a system that allows me to offer maximum efficiency in coaching and cueing without really getting messed up with the numbers. And people really like the flow. It's like they know it's 3 exercises, 2 minutes only, so they know what they're expecting. It works very well. And we work that way as well. Angie and I, we work out like this.
And just not just how simple it is, right? So if we're talking about programming for people who are listening to this, for example, and then training at home, and it's a person who wants to train with kettlebells, and they're wondering what they can do as their program.
Yeah.
And people think it needs to be so fancy and
Yeah.
so complicated,
Yeah.
and this and that, and circular clean here.
Yeah.
But you can get in fantastic shape with really simple programming, and
Yeah.
that's actually something that a lot of people get surprised about when they know my own like workouts. I have very simple programs. Sometimes I do three exercises in the whole workout, and then I'm done.
That's it. You're
And
done.
people
No.
think that it's so fancy and so complicated, and there's this crazy reps and sets. Like, nah, it's most of the time it's like an EMOM. You do like 10 minutes Turkish get up, 10 minutes
Awesome.
pressing, 10
Awesome.
minutes swing, walk away.
That's
It's
it. Awesome.
so simple. And I think
Awesome.
that the key to progress is not fancy programming, though programming has to be smart, obviously, and balanced, but it doesn't have to be fancy. It's just all about consistency and good form. And like, if you have that, if you have consistency, if you keep doing things for a very long time, obviously without getting injured, and that's where your programming has to be smart, but it doesn't have to be fancy, and good form, like if you just focus on good form, you get results. And
Yeah.
you keep training because you love it, because who doesn't like moving beautifully? I think like what I've taught so many things in my life. Like I've been in the fitness industry for so many years now, and I've done, in my early years of training, I've been a military boot camp instructor. Like
Wow.
I wore military outfits
Yeah.
and like a hat and
Yeah.
boots,
Living the life.
5 a.m. in the morning, screaming at people who crawl in the mud, like carrying logs. It was ridiculous. It was like, I thought people with a fetish, seriously, who like to be yelled at and have like a
There's a
boot on their
market.
face.
There's a market for these people.
There
Yes.
is a market.
Yeah.
And so it was from that to just boot camps to circuit training. And what I've noticed is that very few people can sustain a program that requires them to move in an ugly and sporadic fashion. They can only sustain it if someone is screaming at them, if there is loud music and they can just lose themselves in it,
Yeah.
and they don't have to think about anything, so they just leave their body. Like,
Yeah.
as if they're being abused, you know, they vacate their body.
Yeah.
Because
They're
they're
out.
abusing their body, right?
Yeah. They're
So
out.
very few people can sustain a program that requires them to move in a bad way, like to just thrash around on the ground, right, doing ugly burpees, because the body doesn't like it, the brain doesn't like it. People like to move beautifully. You like to do what you do well, not just thrash, right? Just what they call it. My clients call it something. I forgot the word for it. Scurry. They call it scurrying around.
Scurrying around.
Scurrying
Okay.
around,
Yeah.
just running around and doing random things in an ugly fashion. Very few people like that. And if a person is training by themselves at home and they're trying to apply that kind of mentality, it just doesn't last. They will eventually have to go and hire some crazy drill sergeant who can call them a maggot and, you know, spit in their face and tell them,
Yeah.
yeah,
Full Metal Jacket. Yeah. Full Metal Jacket style.
yeah, Full Metal
Yeah.
Jacket.
Most definitely.
Yes.
And
So yeah.
you're mentioning so many great points that if you force people or coerce people into doing things that their brain tells them it doesn't feel right, then you know what I hear sometimes is they start depreciating themselves and say, well, you see, the reason why I don't like it is because I'm such a lazy person. And then sometimes I'm like, maybe you don't like it because your brain is telling you, your body's telling you that's not good for you. Destroying yourself, and I've really changed my mind on this. Although I stand on two bridges that I want to have your opinion on. But first, before we get there, you mentioned one thing, the simplicity of the programming, right? And then folks are like surprised to see folks like you and me and probably other coaches as well to use simple programming. And yet you mentioned GPP and SPP. So it may be the fact, in my perspective, that people see athletes and celebrity coaches or great coaches who coach these guys do specific physical performance exercises, SPP2 ones, who are explicitly designed for that sport. And Pavel Tsatsouline gave a great example. He said, for example, a SPP2 exercise for a combat athlete, for an MMA athlete, would be having a power band on your hip, fixed on a pole or on a power rack, and then doing charges. Charging to the front while the power band is pulling you back, and then you go back and you charge to the front. So that would simulate a takedown and probably will give you some strength to increase your takedown rates, or however they call it. And Luca came up with a great description. He said there are some poisonous exercises. For example, a Russian twist with a heavy weight may put your lower back in a troublesome position, but an MMA fighter who will be put in that position probably needs some additional abdominal armor to withstand the torture that he's going through in that case. So beginners probably look at these exercises and be like, ooh, that's what I got to do because athlete so-and-so does it. And then they're perplexed, realizing that, well, that's 0.5% of the whole population. The rest of the 99.5% need the basics. I think that's probably a huge factor, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Most of us, and that applies to any area of life, and every coach in any area, like any area. Literally, I'm studying accounting right now, just for fun. And basics and foundations are the most important things. Any kind of fancy things that you might want to do later on, if you really, really like it, if you're really into it, and if you want to spend more time and energy on that, yes, that's fine. Yes. But I think in our modern culture, we tend to chase after magic fixes, maybe novelty, and because of that, we forget that the foundation is really all that most of us need, or at least we have to get it before we move on to anything else. It's sort of like, I find that you gotta earn things, right? So if you have your foundations, and if you're already doing them on a regular basis, so if I'm already walking for at least 30 minutes a day, if I'm already doing my swings 3 times a week, if I'm already doing my squatting, if I'm already pulling, if I'm already pushing, then yes, then I can add something else if I still have the time. But if I don't, with those hour that I'm spending on my fitness, for example, on a daily basis, I have to fill it with foundations first, and then big rocks, right? Remember the big rocks analogy?
The big whale.
You have to put the big rocks in first, and then you put the small rocks in. You don't want to just fill it with sand. You want to fill it with big rocks. And then stick the sand if you still want to continue adding. And the sand is what sport-specific conditioning is. You know, you might want to do an extra stuff for your wrists if you're a climber, or you might want to hike with a backpack if you're a hiker. But you still gotta do your deadlifts, your farmer's carries. You know, you got your walking. That's the foundation.
The big rocks.
I really like that Dan John idea of walking with a kettlebell to the location, because that's actually what we do in my classes.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, well, my kids, because I don't have a gym. I have, because most of my clientele are international, so I have a studio which is really tiny, and that's from where I'm filming and where I train and where I receive one-on-one clients. But all my classes are done either online or outdoors, and we actually just gather in the park. And New Zealand is beautiful, so it's like, what's the point of training indoors if you live in such a gorgeous country? Most definitely.
Wow.
And so we take the kettlebells out of my car, and then I don't carry any kettlebells. My students carry all the kettlebells.
That's awesome. You go grab one and then you stick with it. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, they have to carry it from the parking lot to the place, and then we exercise, and they have to carry it back.
Great. So see when great coaches have similar mindsets. And you said big rocks. You know how Dan John calls this? He said, so many people are sitting on the whale fishing for minnows. It's the exact same thing. And even with the hinge, he said, learning a proper hinge is such a powerful basic that people need to continuously reminded of it, what the hinge really is. And a few days earlier, I was talking to Angie and I was like, listen, we gotta work on that hinge continuously. So let's build it into our warm-up. And then having the podcast session with Dan, who's saying me, people need to be reminded of the basics all day, every day. Wow. And yesterday when I was having this, I had the seminar at a local police farm, a local police law enforcement from our local area. And then we were talking about weapons. And then one of the guys who's very, very sophisticated with it, he said, when it comes to weaponry and knowing how to handle the guns, it's the same thing. The elite ones are the ones who have mastered the basics to a level that when a dangerous situation occurs, they do it automatically. The rest is fancy stuff. It's cool to watch. It looks cool, but it's not something that you use in real life. And so with kettlebells, you mentioned that people are looking for the quick fix. And now we have to add in the fact that some folks are capitalizing on it, showing the people who are looking for the quick fix, well, you don't have to do the normal snatch. You have to do the snatch and then rotate. And I saw this. I saw one guy do this, seriously. A 32 kilo kettlebell, snatching it and then going into a rotation. And I was like, and people keep sending me these videos. Hey, I saw this one. I saw this guy. He does, the circular cleans. The circular cleans, like they come up and then they go directly into a press, right? So it's like they come up and boom. And I was like, you don't need that. You don't need that. Well, why are they posting it? Well, it gets clicks and views.
Yes.
But
well, actually, the thing with it is that I think sometimes when we tell people that they shouldn't do it, they just dig in their heels. And I would probably, I'm a stubborn person, so I'd probably go, don't tell me what I can do.
Don't tell you.
But
do it anyway.
If what I tell myself is not that you can't do it, because really you can, really you can, but you gotta do what matters first, and then you play. So you got to do what brings you the result. So for example, if you want to be strong and if you want to have a good strong posture, posterior chain, lose fat, gain muscle, blah blah blah, you do all the compound lifts, you do all the basic compound lifts. That's even the rule in bodybuilding, right? You don't just do bicep curls and tricep extensions, right? In the gym, you do the big lift, because that's what gives you the testosterone. And then if you've earned your bicep curls with pull-ups, then you do your bicep curls.
You got to earn
right? So it's the same thing in kettlebells, right? I mean, I started my fitness career, like fitness life, as bodybuilder as well. I used to have photos of female bodybuilders hanging on my walls and everything.
Awesome.
And bodybuilding is actually a great discipline to learn the basics for fitness. You learn the muscles, you learn how to activate those muscles, you learn good technique, because bodybuilding is all about moving with control, not thrashing on the ground, right? Because you want to develop muscle properly. And it's all about you do the compounds before you go into the isolate. And actually, for a lot of people, what they find is that if they're training for muscle size, not even with kettlebells, they just do the compound. It's like, if you don't have the time, just do the compound lift. And then if you have the time, do some bicep curls.
Yes.
You never just go to the gym and go, right, I have an hour, let's do bicep curls.
First.
No.
Even though there's a lot of people who do this. And because it gives you the pump and all that. And you got to earn that right. I love it. You got to earn it. And moving with control when you start bodybuilding. Yes, understanding how to keep your muscles under tension. Yeah, that's great stuff. It's really great stuff. And at the end of the day, I think people are, you know, when they're asking my opinion and my advice, I always take Dan John's approach. I make it short and quick. It's like, I see blah, 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 blah. I take a look at it. I like, you don't need it. That's just my advice. But here it goes. And I got it from Dan John, and I will use it for the rest of my life. He said, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
You should. Yeah, I remember he wrote it in the book.
I'll take this forever with me. I'm like, this is so powerful. Of course you can rotate and balance on a Bosu ball, and you can do everything, all that stuff. But you know, when I'm reading that book from Dr. Stuart McGill, I'm like, I'd rather be a little bit more careful because I want to lift with kettlebells until the day I die. So let's be careful with stuff. You know, I'm not an athlete. So yesterday, when we were going through the seminar, I said you have basically, when it comes to kettlebells, I say you have 3 categories. You have the grinding lifts, you have the ballistics, and then you have doubles. So doubles, I mean, it's not a completely new category. You do the same lifts, but when you work with doubles, it's a completely new world. It feels different. It's just another world. So I said, will the doubles give you more strength and power and endurance? Yes, because you're using more weight. Yeah. And is it fun? Yes. But do you need it? No. You don't. Stick with the singles and rather upgrade to a heavier single kettlebell instead of start working with doubles. This doesn't
Which
mean...
is interesting.
Yeah.
Because I love doubles.
I love it too. I love it too. I love it
doubles.
too. I mean, I told him, I said, I love the jerk. I love the long cycle. And I love when you work with doubles, it's all these nuances and the details that you have to take care of in the backswing, in the clean, in the top fixation. And I keep working on my jerk. Sometimes I'm really struggling because when I watch at my jerk in slow motion, I most of the time see how I'm double dipping. I go into the second dip, but my arms are not straight. I hate that. I really have to work on this synchronizing my elbows with my knees, which takes ages. So I love it. But like we mentioned in the beginning, most people will probably never need doubles. Or do you see it differently? What's your take on it?
Yeah, you know, it's really interesting because I don't actually separate double kettlebells from single kettlebells the same way as there's no such a clear distinction because so I have so many clients who probably will not be ready for things like double jerk or double snatch for a long time. However, they respond really well to double front squat. So they can clean two kettlebells because cleaning 2 kettlebells into the rack is easier than one actually. Because if you think about cleaning 1 kettlebell, it's like extreme offset. Right? If you ever tried cleaning a very light one and a very heavy one, like 2 kettlebells, one very light, one very heavy, it's really lopsided, right? If you ever tried doing offset training where like you're using a 12 kilo and then a 16 kilo or a 16 and a 24 in one hand and the other. So if you do offset training, it's really challenging for the core. So if you think about one arm training, it's extreme offset because one side is 0 and the other side is 16, right? So it's one side training is very challenging. Double kettlebell training in many ways is actually easier. I found that people don't struggle with double kettlebell deadlift, for example, as much as they struggle with one arm deadlift. Same thing, one arm clean is probably the most difficult exercise to teach because there is this rotation and there's this twisting and the shrugging, all sort of stuff. But you give them 2 and it's easy. It's like doing 2-hand. And double cleans, people respond really well to it because the thing is with kettlebell, if you're doing squats with a kettlebell, I mean, it's really light. And especially if a person has reasonably strong legs, loading up just in a front rack on one side or even goblet with 1 kettlebell, your upper body gets tired before your lower body gets tired. Because I mean, think about a barbell, right? You're squatting something like, I don't know, 70 kilo with a barbell and it's on your shoulders.
Yeah.
and you don't have to worry about your arms being tired,
Yeah.
and you can
Yeah.
squat up and down.
Yeah.
But then with the kettlebell, you have to hold
Yeah,
the
you have to hold
32
it.
in your
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah.
So it's more functional because you would probably be squatting with something that you're holding,
Amen.
but it's also less of a workout for the legs. So what I found is that for a lot of people, double kettlebell cleans and squats are extremely fun, satisfying, and great for leg strength. And also, this is a little trick I use for women. I don't know how many women watch. I think a lot of women actually will be watching, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have a lot of people that write on my YouTube channel, men,
Yeah,
probably 97%
mostly men.
the
Yeah,
men.
mostly men. But in the coaching, the funny thing is, in the coaching, we have 70-80% women in the
Interesting.
studio.
Yeah,
Yeah, different.
So women might find it useful. So what I do in terms of racking the kettlebells in things like complexes and so forth, depending on the workout, instead of holding it in the rack, I put it on my shoulders.
Yeah,
It's called a shoulder rack. And I don't give it to my guys as much. I give it more to the ladies, because ladies have weaker upper body, and it's just true. It's just true. That's why in CrossFit, for example, women have injured shoulders so much more frequently than men. It's true in kettlebells that women generally complain that their legs are still not tired, their arms are already dead if they're doing squats and stuff. Our upper bodies are just weaker than our legs comparatively. So men's upper and lower body a little bit closer in strength. Of course, lower body is stronger for everybody. Legs are stronger. But for men, because they have such a bulky upper body, it's stronger. It's closer in strength to legs. For women, our upper bodies are just not that strong, but our legs are comparatively much stronger much stronger than the shoulders. So what happens is, if we're holding the kettlebells in the rack and we're squatting with them, the legs are not tired. The arms are dying. So what I found is that what really works for me is placing the kettlebells into the shoulder rack. Not all the time, because sometimes it is good to do front squats. But in some complexes where I want to spare my shoulders, I rack the kettlebells on my shoulders. I think I even have like videos for this on my channel from years ago, when I just showed a shoulder rack squat, or like shoulder rack position. There is an art to it, because you can box your ears.
Yeah. You look like an MMA fighter. Yeah.
You get like
cauliflower. Yeah. Yeah. No, I got it.
There is
awesome.
there is a correct way to do it, and competition kettlebells are probably not ideal for that particular rack. It's too big.
That's where yeah, that's awesome. That's, if I just may interject real quick, that's where I see some aspects of, because we're using competitions only. So if you are double cleaning comps, that's where I see the problematic aspect, because they have to learn to rack one belt over the other. But of course, if you have the smaller ones, way easier. That's one thing. And the other thing that I see that I really missed, is the unilateral aspect of, if you just use one, always having to work. And of course, you have to use a lot of shoulder mobility to be able to find your hip, if you really want to rack it on your hip, right? But in the hardstyle, you don't. You just, you stand up tall. And that's what I saw as well. And most definitely where I agree, that the easy aspect of racking kettlebells in a hardstyle fashion, even though it's not as easy. I mean, you have to use a lot of tension, but the way doing it in sports style is completely different. So, but
strength-wise, it's harder, but technically it's easier.
Yeah,
for a lot of people,
great
the
description.
strength is not the problem; it's the technique that is the problem.
Yeah.
So that's what hardstyle is a bit more faster to learn, because it's not as technical. It's you just build your strength.
Yes, most definitely.
And that's what.
And just and seeing that you're saying it, doubles take that unilateral problem out of the equation. That's something that I missed. And of course, we do double deadlifts. I mean, a double deadlift is easy. A double row is easy. I mean, yeah, we do those, most definitely. But the ballistics with doubles, this is where I not shy away, but this is where I think most of our clients are just doing well with the singles. And where I also, I just love it. Maybe it's that's just my approach, because I love teaching them how to really get a hold of the kettlebell in the rack rest position, understanding the hook grip, and just, because I believe that's where I'm more on Steve Cotter's side. I just like flowing with the fluidity of the motion with kettlebell sport is what I'm really intrigued by. And so that's what I'm trying to really incorporate in this idea and bringing it closer to beginners. And after so many months passed after this discussion with Dennis Vasilev, I finally understand now what he means with, kettlebell sports more like hardcore. So that's why hardstyle is maybe more applicable just for general fitness, right? Yeah, it's great stuff. As a last note, Kat, may I show you something and get your comments on it? Because let me preface this. I had a huge problem, well, not a problem, well, it is a problem. I had a huge problem with calling a swing. I mean, depending on the style, it's just different. And now, having seen the full-blown version of a hardstyle and a kettlebell sports swing, I wasn't perplexed, but I felt like it's not clear to me. I see some things, and I really did some research. I dove into it. And now that's what I'd like to share with you, if you don't mind, and explain you my system. And then I'd really like to get your feedback. Are you seeing my screen now?
Yes.
With the 5 features? Okay. So I wonder what your take on this is. So after really doing some intense research on the swing by itself, I came up with this notion or this idea that the swing, every swing that you do or that we see in the real world has 5 features. Or you can benefit from a swing if you understand these features well. Now, feature number 1 is the style. I believe you have to understand, even beginners, because beginners get easily confused when they see different styles. So the feature number 1 would be the style. Am I doing a hardstyle swing? Am I doing a kettlebell sports swing? Or am I doing a hybrid swing? And I want to elaborate on this hybrid concept a little bit later, which I really like to get your feedback. Now, feature number 2 is it's in German, I see, but I'm going to translate it to you. So feature number 2 is the movement pattern. So you either do in your swing, you either do a hinge only, you do a hinge with bent knees, or you do a hinge with double bent knees. And the hinge with the squat, this is such a beastly mode of a swing that you've probably seen. You go into a hinge, you swing the weight, and then you go down into a squat. It's a beast of a swing, right? So feature number 3 will be the weight category. Understanding what weights you can choose. You can either choose light weights, moderate weights, or heavy weights. And the last feature is understanding hand orientation, feature number 4. So you either do single hand, double hand, or hand to hand. And feature number 5 is what are you doing it for? Strength, endurance, or are you trying to mix it? And now what I'd like to show you is my hybrid idea, or just putting all the swings together now. I believe when we take a look at these 5 features, the hardstyle swing, feature number 1, is hardstyle, of course. Feature number 2, it is a hinge with bent knees. Now, the reason why I say this is you mostly swing with heavy weights in the hardstyle, right? So what happens is you're not only hinging, you are bending your knees because the gravitational pull of Earth becomes so strong that you have to start bending your knees at a certain point, right? So when I swing a 48, I automatically start bending my knees because the gravitational pull is so strong. So feature number 4 would be you only use the hardstyle with heavy weights. You got to get coaching first. That's a no-brainer. But you have to use heavier weights. And feature number 5 would be you can either do a double hand or a single hand hardstyle swing. I have seen Pavel teach the hand-to-hand hardstyle swing.
You do hand-to-hand. We did it today in class.
You did it?
Yeah,
right?
yeah, we do hand-to-hand.
And the reason why I believe I don't do a hardstyle swing hand-to-hand is when I'm swinging a 48, I don't switch hands. Do you see that differently?
But you don't always swing a 48 with hardstyle.
Yeah,
You go
or
for endurance.
yes, even the hardstyle swing, you're using it for endurance?
I mean, endurance and hardstyle is not ultra endurance like it would be in Garivoy, but you can swing for a minute, which is quite an endurance level swing,
Right.
In hardstyle with that
Interesting.
weight, right? Because
You see,
it's 30 repetitions. So if you think about repetitions,
yeah,
30 is endurance rep range.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And you know,
I mean,
yeah, the reason why I'm saying this is, yeah,
Go.
yeah, keep going, keep going, keep going.
Garivoy would be considered ultra endurance as far as weights are concerned,
Yeah.
because that's more than 30 reps, right? And it's a weight. You're lifting a weight for more than 30 reps.
And
go for it.
And I'll go into these 30 reps. That's why I believe I am using a hybrid version. But let me clear this one up. The reason why I'm saying I'm never switching hands is because Luca, the way I learned it from Luca, who is a strong proponent of hardstyle, who really lives and breathes this technique, says he goes for 10 reps max with a hardstyle swing, always favoring heavy weights. So for me, that's 32 is now becoming even easier so that I can use it in a single hand swing. So my weights would be 40 and 48. And Angie's now 28, 32. So the reason why I'm not switching hands is because the weight is so heavy. That's too dangerous, right? And that's the way I learned it from Luca. Now in the kettlebell sport swing, we have feature number 1 is the kettlebell sport, of course. Feature number 2, we have the hinge with double bent knees. This is the pendulum leg action, right? This is a completely different way how you move your legs in a swing. I believe a kettlebell sports swing, you can use all weights. I mean, I can do a kettlebell sports swing with a 32 and feel all right. And mostly what I have seen is you do kettlebell sports swing either single hand or hand to hand. What is your take on this?
Yeah, well, kettlebell sport. Yeah, you don't use two hands.
Yeah, I saw that as well. Because I saw a video of somebody doing the kettlebell sports swing with 2 hands, and I was like, I've never seen this in real life. Interesting. So
yeah, well, they don't even teach that. I mean, the kettlebell sport kettlebell, like competition kettlebell, is not even designed to be held with 2 hands.
Yeah, yeah, and we see that when we do the hardstyle swing, you have to manage it a little bit. My fingers are more a little bit outside. Yeah, it works, but you have to adjust a little bit. So now in the hybrid, and that's where when you talked about the 30 reps, the hybrid, I believe that's the mixture. You use a hybrid version. So what you do is you hinge only. You don't snap. You don't bend your knees. You're just hinging. And I see a lot of guys and gals, coaches, and even athletes do swings like this. They are hinging. They're not bending. They're unlocking their knees, of course, but they're not bending the knees. So they are just hinging. And when they are on top, they don't use a lot of snapping power. It's just on top, the bells afloat, and then they come back. So this is where I believe you use light to moderate weights. And this is where I believe you can use the final feature, single hand, double hand, and hand to hand. Because I see this so many times. If you use light to moderate weights, you can use your hinge only. But if you use heavier weights, you will start bending your knees. And it's interesting that people started critiquing Luca, and he mentioned this on a recent Instagram post. People were critiquing him, saying, hey, Luca, you are not hinging, you are bending your knees as well. And then he said, well, that's normal if you have a 48 kilogram kettlebell. So you see, I saw these differences, that even hardstyle guys don't have the same opinion on some stuff. That's why I believe it is more a mixture between strength and endurance. That's why I believe it is a hybrid version where you are just hinging, not using snapping power and using light to moderate weights. And then, because that's what we do in 2 minutes. When I swing, when Angie and I do a hybrid hand-to-hand swing, I swing the 24 kilo with the hinge only for 2 minutes. But as soon as I step it up to the 28, I start bending my knees. So that's what I wanted to show you.
What is your... No, this is great. It's an interesting idea. What is your goal when you're doing it for 2 minutes?
With the 24 and the 20?
Yeah, so when you're doing the hybrid swing for 2 minutes.
Then I'm in between. I want to get some, the pendulum moves set, let's say like it's strength and endurance, and I'm kind of like in between a little bit. That's my goal. As soon as I pick up the 48, my goal moves straight up to strength only. And this is where I'm just using 10 reps only, because, and that's, Luca was right. As we started hardstyle swing with, I tried it, 40 kilo, 12 reps, and after my 11th, 12th rep, my form was tanking. So I was like, I'm gonna use the EMOM method, 5 sets of 10, 5 minutes, and that's it, with hardstyle. So this is where I make the difference. And what I also love is if I can keep swinging with the bell, it gives me this great vibe. I love one of my favorite combinations is swing, clean and jerk, snatch. 2-minute swing, 2-minute clean and jerk, 1 minute left, 1 minute right, and then snatch, 1 minute left, 1 minute right. So that way the bell's afloat for 6 minutes, you keep working with it, you have it on top, you have it in your rack, you have it down. I love it. It's one of the greatest combos. I really love it.
Well, I don't see why not. It will just have to be field tested. So right now, off the bat, I don't know, because it has to be field tested on the person. So depending on how your clients and your students react to switching between the styles, and if it works for them, and if it doesn't injure them, and if it achieves their goals, then I don't see why not. I mean, kettlebell training, I was just talking about this with someone else recently. Kettlebell training is a relatively young discipline. I mean, in Russia it's old, but in the West it's only 30 years. The other day, me and my family were celebrating the fall of communism, the 21st of August. 30 years ago, the communism fell in Russia. So they were all drinking, and they were texting me going, "Happy birthday!"
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
And so that's when kettlebells came out, right? So it's only 30 years or even less that kettlebells have been in the West, and they've made huge strides in terms of figuring out how to train with them, figuring out what's the right way and what doesn't necessarily work. But it's still really young, and we're still, I mean, we're the third or the second generation of people who are now building on the shoulders of giants, right? The previous guys who were, Cotter and Pavel and Dan John, they are the originals. They started with it, and we're building on that. We take their knowledge for granted. They gained that knowledge through blood, sweat, and tears, and training people with it. But now we are building on that.
Awesome.
And so I don't see why it couldn't be improved. So I think it's just all about rigorous testing. You just want to see whether it works with people. I think the most important thing is applicability. That is it practically applicable with the person.
And the beautiful thing is you're talking about field testing. That's the way I was taught from Steve when he was here. So that's why when I had a conversation with him, I say, Steve, I believe you're the original hybrid, man. Because you incorporated Turkish get up, strict press, squat, goblet squat, bend press, the typical hardstyle stuff, hardstyle swing, everything. But then you went to Russia and found out let's say like the original way how the kettlebell was designed. So you are the original hybrid. So when I learned from him, I learned the hand-to-hand swing exactly like this. So me now figuring out, it's just putting it on paper in terms what it's like. And we get great feedback from swinging. So for example, I believe I even started incorporating my own simple and sinister idea. Because one problem that I see with hardstyle or hardstyle swing is you need heavier weights to get a proper feedback for the strongest muscles that you have, your glutes and your hams. So let's imagine you're beginning with kettlebells. You heard about the hardstyle swing. So you are, let's say like a female starting out, never lifted weights before. So you were told, or you went to a class, you learned the kettlebell hardstyle swing with a 16 kilo. And now you feel strong and safe. So you buy your 16 kilo. The only thing that you can do with it, as far as I'm concerned, if you're just starting out is a kettlebell hardstyle swing. It's probably too heavy to bring it up front. Probably, I don't know how many goblet squats you're able to do. Maybe deadlift with it, but then you're done. So I believe the hybrid idea comes in where you say, yes, you have a fixed weight, a 12 kilo only or a 16 kilo only, depending on males or females, and you can work fine with it. We just had one of our clients, she finished our program, and now she's a mother of 3. So I said, listen, you do the simple and sinister, keep going with it. Swing and Turkish. So we started implementing a very easy system. It's like you do the hybrid swing because he has a 12 kilo and a 16 kilo. I said, you do the hybrid swing for 2 minutes with the 12 kilogram. You keep pumping 2 to 3 minutes. And then you do 3 Turkish get up left, 3 Turkish get up right with the same weight. You don't need another kettlebell. You're safe. Now she got a 16. She got really strong. Now she's doing everything with the 16. So that's probably out of necessity. It maybe came up a little because people have to buy different kettlebells. And, you know, if financial budget is a question, then maybe you only have to work with one. So if I use one kettlebell that's heavy enough for my legs, I won't do anything overhead because it's too heavy for my upper body. You just mentioned women are weaker in their upper body. And most humans, we all are, because we have the strongest muscles in our legs. So that's why I figured, hey, use a weight that can challenge your whole body. Not only just a hardstyle swing and you won't be able to press it. It's sad. You miss out on one very important basic. So probably that's where it comes from.
Very interesting point. Very interesting point to bring it up. I think I've recently written a blog on that. So in hardstyle, you don't get one kettlebell. When you first start, you recommended to get 3 kettlebells.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
3.
so a woman would get an 8, 12, and 16, and then a man would get a 16, 24, and 32. If it's a strong man, if it's a beginner man, he would get like a 12, 16, and 20. So my guys, I normally get them to buy 12, 16, and 20, and then they can get whatever they want if they want. And then because of that, you end up using doubles. For example, case in point, my mom, so she started training with kettlebells in her 60s, online with me. So during lockdown last year, because her gym she was training at a CrossFit gym with my brother who owns a CrossFit gym. And the gym closed because lockdown. They live in Israel, and I'm like, Mom, why don't you start training with a kettlebell? She only had a 12 kilo kettlebell at home because I got it for her. Like, we're gonna start training with kettlebell. So she only had a 12, and so we had to work with a 12 until the shops opened again around Christmas, and then she got an 8 and a 16. Because that's true. So with that 12, all we could do is just, as you said, work with the 12. So we couldn't really press it much. She learned to do a Turkish sit-up with the 12. Can you imagine?
Yeah, most definitely.
Learned to do a Turkish sit-up with the 12 kilo. And now she's doing 16. Now she's Turkish get-upping 16 several
that's
times.
Powerful. Powerful.
Yeah,
powerful.
She's a tiny lady. In her, she's 62, I think. I don't remember. My God, I should remember.
We better edit this out, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So,
that's powerful.
And when we bought her another 2 kettlebells, so 8 and 16, and she started using them. So she started using the 8s for presses and 16 for 2-hand swings. And then she started using doubles. She started using an 8 and a 12 for double cleans and double squats. She just blossomed. Like, she loved it. She's like, oh my God, I had no idea that you can do this. I mean, of course, she enjoyed the single kettlebell workout. She loved it and it got her stronger. But when I moved her to other kettlebells, like to a heavier kettlebell and to doubles even, for the squats, she's now doing jerks as well. I mean, she's a machine.
Awesome. Powerful.
It was a different, I guess it depends on the person, but she loved it. Like, she loved going heavier. And so I think you're absolutely right. Hybrid style, Gervoy style, it's excellent. And I've seen another one of my colleagues in Russia, Svetlana. She's a coach, in St. Petersburg. I think she's like a world record holder for a double kettlebell event.
I think I follow her on Instagram. Yeah, I think I know when
Oh
you're talking about?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So she practices with one single kettlebell a lot of the time, and it's quite amazing because it's very minimalistic. It's like the ultimate minimalistic workout, right? You just use the same kettlebell, same thing. Um, I find that it is too little if it's one kettlebell, but if that's all you have, then I think hybrid is a brilliant idea
Yeah.
because yeah, you will have to use it for everything.
Yeah. And that's where the idea originally came from. Because now saying, okay, you got to buy 3 kettlebells. Well, of course, for something for your lower, for the legs, something for upper body, I do get it. But the idea where I'm now really digging into is you can have massive success with one weight only. We had one of our clients, she went through our program for 3 months. She lost, what was it? Because that's what we focus on usually with the clients in our gym. We focus on weight loss with nutrition coaching. And she lost 16 kilos. 15.7, I think it was, in 3 months, which is powerful. And she's 52 years. We only worked with the 12s. And what I love to do in the coaching is when we use kettlebells only, we work with single weights. But then we have one session every other week, or I think, yeah, it's 3 sessions per week, and 2 of them is kettlebells only. And then we have one with heavy stuff, heavy prowler sled, heavy farmer's walk, heavy deadlift. That's where I just engage in that system. And that works well, but I know that many people do not have access to those types of weights at home. So my idea is once they're done, I want to give them a program, an idea of training that they can do at home and be safe with it and never have to mess around thinking about buying another weight or using, because I mean, I totally understand the 3 weights principle or protocol. But yesterday I had an analogy in the seminar, and I said, listen, most people do not work out. They don't prioritize working out. That's our market. That's the folks that we want to market the kettlebells to. We want to help them get in shape, eat less, move more. So I imagine somebody comes home from work, has a hard day of work, then has some family issues going on, and then you got to take care of these family issues. So then it's 7 p.m. at night, or 7:30 or 8 p.m. at night, long day of work, family issues, and now you got to work your program. I would say there's a higher chance if you have one set of weight and 2 exercises that you can do that complement each other for a given set of time where you don't have to think. There's a higher chance that you will opt in for the ultra basic minimalistic idea than for the sophisticated one. And I believe most people live these kinds of lives. Always stressed out. So they need something that's easy and applicable so that they can even do it. And that one mother, she said, you know how I do it? I just do 2 rounds, swing, Turkish get-ups. But then I have to stop because of my baby. Or because of the kids. Then I take care of the kids, and then I come back at it. And I think, well, that's powerful. That's awesome. She doesn't have to think. She mastered the Turkish get-up, and she's very powerful. She mastered it. She aced it, and her swing is solid. So I said, you're done. You have all you need. And if you want to go deeper and take it to the next level, we can with different stuff. But if you do swing and Turkish for the rest of the year, you're safe. So that's the idea where I'm coming from.
So first, how would you recommend based on your model, single kettlebell?
Yeah.
Where would you start a person? How would they choose a kettlebell? So for a man, for a woman, for a beginner, for an advanced, so how do you choose the single kettlebell? Now I'm just probing your method so that you can refine it.
Yeah. I'm women, we're always starting with 8 kilogram. And guys, we always start with 12 kilogram. That's where we start. And then we take it from there. And in our experience, most women will settle between 12 and 16. And most guys will settle between 16 and 20. And we're safe. And you mentioned...
If you start a person on a kettlebell, sorry interrupting you. If you start a person on an 8 kilo kettlebell like a lady, and she's got that at home, once she's progressed past 8, and women progress past 8 very quickly,
Yeah,
wouldn't
yeah.
you have to get another kettlebell?
Then she'd have to get a 12 kilo, yes. But you know, my experience with the people that we are working with is most people don't even touch their kettlebells at home. So before we even
So
start,
this is more for people who come face to face.
it is face to face, but we also like to, you know, share the enthusiasm and the love for kettlebells. But most people rarely touch those bells at home. So that's why in advance I know you're safe with the 8. And when you come into the studio and I see you ripping it and gripping it and you're safe and you're like a beast, I'm gonna tell you, you got to pick up the 12. Now it's time for the 12. But
Okay.
and you mentioned something. You mentioned progression, right? In my experience, and I worked as a gym instructor and now in a personal training business. And I had this conversation with one of the his name's Sean. He's doing his doctorate in neurology, focused on Alzheimer's and dementia.
Oh yes, you mentioned one
Yeah,
time.
yeah. And we talked. We had a great conversation. And he said, if we could put all the benefits of exercise and nutrition into a bottle or a pill and sell it, we would be billionaires. I said yes. So he said, so in a recent seminar, I asked the guys and the gals that were on the show presenting, well, how do we get them to move? If it's such a powerful medicine, if exercise is the best medicine there is, and nutrition, the combo, how do we get them to move, and why are people not engaging with it? And so they had no answer. And so I said, you know, maybe I can provide you some sort of answer. The reason why they didn't have an answer, because it's true. It's hard to make people love it and get with it. It's a hard thing. So there's no one size fits all. But one aspect that I follow is I want to spark, and I got this from Charles Schwab. He was the right hand from Carnegie. Carnegie was a steel magnate in the 20th century. So Charles Schwab was his right hand, and he got paid a lot of money. So they asked Charles Schwab, why are you making so much money? And he said, well, it's because I can spark an enthusiasm for the work that people do in the hearts of people. So if I spark an enthusiasm, then the expert doesn't have to be in the room. Mm-hmm. So that's what I try to do. I told Sean, I said, that's what I'm trying to do. Spark an enthusiasm in the hearts of people. Mm-hmm. But it's a very hard thing to do. And experience shows that most people do not engage and will almost never need progression unless it's supervised from a coach like you and me, or they're in that small percentage block of folks who take it on themselves and start working out by themselves. But it's a small percentage block. So that's the reason true. Why I'm saying you don't need no progression. We don't talk about progression. Just get those basics in, and you're done. And there's one common denominator that I see. When people are joining our group program, we have the idea our group coaching is fairly reasonable in pricing, so that you can, so that they can use our group coaching once a week for the whole year. It's reasonable. It still costs more than your gym membership, but I believe we provide more value, so that's why I'm charging it more. And the other thing is, but it's still reasonable. So, as one thing you probably notice as well, when folks come back or they are in your session and you see that their technique has taken leaps, that's what I'm asking. I'm like, did you do swings at home? And they're like, yes. I'm like, we can see it. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, in my case, I don't know how it is in your case, but we have experience with a lot of people coming in real life. It's very rare.
Yeah, you know what I'm realizing that, and this is the beauty of this world we live in, is that we encounter different types of clients, different types of students that we work with, in different sort of formats. So, mm-hmm. For example, most of my students are people who train at home by themselves. With their own kettlebells, not in the gym, and they train with me online. So they're mm-hmm. all over the world. Mm-hmm. That's both for my courses and for my one-on-one private coaching mm-hmm. program, right? but then I have classes here in New Zealand. New Zealand's a tiny country, so I have a class in Auckland, just for the dwellers of Auckland. They are a very different bunch.
Yeah.
They are different. So they do not train at home by themselves. They go to classes because they have a trainer right there, and they prefer to train with other people. And I find that people who attend classes, it's a different bunch from people who train by themselves at home.
Most definitely.
And I almost have they are different character types, they're different motivation styles. The people who do classes hardly ever train at home by themselves. And then the people who train at home by themselves, some of them, I do have guys who come to my online classes as well, but a lot of them don't. They just train at home by themselves, and then they do one-on-one with me. So the people who train at home, they want that progression, and they want that several kettlebells, because it is not as easy to stay motivated if you don't see progress, and if you can't go, to the next kettlebell, and if you can't move up more reps.
Most definitely. They need it.
They need it. So if you're training at home by yourself, you need that ladder. I know it for myself, because I'm like that as well. So I'm a person who trains at home by herself. I've trained with people, and I prefer to train by myself at home. But people in class, much more versatile, because you bounce off each other. It's more like a social thing. So you can do a few more funky things there. You can use the same weight. I find it's different types of people. And so when you're designing a program like this, so you're using that's what I was asking you. So you're using one kettlebell and you give it to people to take home. But for the main event, they're coming to you, to your gym. Then it's not the same as if that person gets all of the training from home.
Yeah, that's completely different.
Case, they need a heavier kettlebell.
Yes, and they need a selection in that case. But with the growth of our and with the growth of our channel, we've just encountered people who financially it's impossible to get multiple weights. So I see there is a market, or there's a demand for an idea or a philosophy that lets you move or lets you progress in a sense without you having to spend a lot of money on different weights. So that's one thing. And you see, that's what you're seeing is people, and statistics show no-show rates at gyms are like 80% don't show up after 3 months. So the big part of people are not into working out. But folks who are, you've created your market. You are marketing your stuff to folks who are already working out at home. So they need a system for progression. I 100% agree. Yet in most cases, my idea is to spark the enthusiasm that people work out at home. And in some cases it does spark. And then we supply them with other weights as well. But in most cases, it doesn't. So then people come back to the group coaching or group training, and that's why we have all of the collection of the bells, and they're safe. And I think my understanding as well is, as long as we get people to move, we're good. Most people, from my experience, don't need a progression system. They just need to work out once or twice at home, or they just need to work out and be done with it. And once they catch the fire, then of course, amen, the 8's too light. Of course, let's grab the 12. All right. So
well, you know what, amen to that particular point, because that habit, so that formation of habit, everything is built on that habit. Nothing can be built until the fitness habit is there. So whatever way you can create a fitness habit is do everything you can in your power. Use one kettlebell, use no kettlebell at all. Like whatever you can do to build a fitness habit, and then you can build anything you want on it. And I've recently had a conversation with one of my clients who for years have been trying to sort of get into fitness, get into weight loss, fitness, muscle building, whatever. Always failed, always quit, because she would go with the goal of like losing 10 kilos or getting a booty or whatever. But the thing is that what you actually need to start with is getting into the habit of exercising, doing whatever it is you want to do, just getting into the habit
Yeah.
of exercising. And then on top on that, then you say, okay, I want to lose 10 kilos now, because by then you already have the habit. So you can plug your program into that
Yeah.
habit. It's very difficult to do it the other way, because everything you achieve requires consistency, and that consistency can only be achieved through habitual training.
100%. I mean, that's what we do with nutrition coaching as well. We build strong habits. Eat your veggies, eat your fruits. Yet there's a dichotomy happening, because we as marketers and coaches have to market weight loss, have to market a certain number. We have to market a certain idea because people come up with it. I mean, you're so right, and I do 100% agree. But one internet marketer once told me, he said, you know, the problem is, whether you're right or wrong, you have to go with the flow and see what options are out there and what people want. And that's what you need. So you need them get into your business. So that's the dichotomy. So we have to work with, hey, this person lost 20 kilos, and then they hit the gym. It's like, hey, it's not about the 20 kilos in the first place, right?
Yeah.
So but that's what good coaching really is. And man,
Actually, that is so profound, because I remember making a conscious choice, like a conscious decision after working in the fitness industry for 10 years or more. I was going, okay, so what do I do now? And then I thought, I will either open a kettlebell academy or I will leave the fitness industry, because I really have done everything I could do in there. And then I decided that I do not want to convince people to use kettlebells anymore. I want people who already want to use kettlebells to come to me, because I'm
different market.
And so that different market, and people who haven't yet discovered kettlebells or don't know what they want to do, there are so many other coaches who would help them and who would guide them and who would enthuse them, and who would, you know, maybe move them towards kettlebells, and then they can find me. And that's why I believe that this beauty of this market, where we can have so many different coaches serving people at every stage of the way of their journey, even sometimes at the same time, right?
Yeah,
one coach can
most
work.
definitely.
Like I'm a certified nutrition, but I don't do nutrition. Like I have I have an amazing nutritionist that I work with. She's got 40 years of experience. She's 67. She's insane. She's like one of the most famous nutritionists in New Zealand. And she's beautiful. And I'm like, I just channel everyone to her.
Bam. Yeah.
Because I just want to do kettlebells. You know, I'm like a geek. I just want to do kettlebells and keep getting better at kettlebell training. But again, it's important to know what you want, right? And that's why I love it that you take the people who I wouldn't, they don't even know where I am, because I'm only all about kettlebells. And then you take them and then you bring them into fitness, and you bring them into kettlebell, and you have the patience and the passion and the creativity and ingenuity to bring them in, and it's just fabulous. It's just so good to see, because without you, people wouldn't know kettlebell, right?
Yes, and that's see. I recently had this on a mission statement where I started rewriting some of our stuff for our English website, and I said my mission is to carry the torch of kettlebells and bring it to the world locally and internationally. That's what I do. But I use all these different marketing systems to get people even in. Because being highly specialized, what you do is awesome, and I'm specializing in another area. But at the end of the day, we both do the same. We bring them our passion. And what you actually do with your nutritionist, I got that was one of the coaching principles that I got from this internet marketer. He said, it's not the how, it's the who. So you don't have to know everything how to do stuff. You don't have to know everything. You have to know who to refer out to.
Yes.
It's powerful. And another dichotomy that I discovered, and that's beautiful when you follow different sources, is yes, we have, I mean, probably you and me, we both moved away, because I come from this typical background with, you know, screaming and yelling and going all in and bam and passion and boom, right? So I think we both moved away a little bit from that side, and now it's more like, hey, it's about the practice, it's about the love of training, it's about not burning people out, not killing people, because that's actually, you mentioned this, you said mental diet, you know, getting people on a mental diet where they look like this on day 0, but then the day after they go crazy because they're not able to sustain this look, right? So I've moved from this part away as well. But yet there's one thing that keeps lingering in my mind, because Nick Mitchell, he owns Ultimate Performance. He's one of the biggest personal trainers in the world. I think he owns 10 or 15 gyms on all continents. And there's one thing that he said that will forever be stuck with me. He said, you know what people want when they hit your gym or when they get your coaching? They want an experience. So if we only are focusing on technique and education and stuff, we might lose them. They need the experience of the sweat, the movement, the push, the motivate. They need it because that's what gets them hooked.
That depends. So, okay, that's interesting point. Okay, that's true. But the type of experience people need depends on the person. And so for him, so he's the owner of 15 or however many gyms, right? And so he serves a certain demographic of people, just like any other gym. So we have a gym here in New Zealand called Les Mills, and it's a gym that group fitness classes, right? And so it serves a certain demographic of people, and a lot of people go there, but also a lot of people don't, right? So tons of people go to Les Mills, but a whole ton of people don't go to Les Mills. So a ton of people will go to a gym like that guy that you were talking with, right? Extreme performance or whatever.
Ultimate Performance, yeah.
Ultimate Performance. And then other people will come to your gym, and then other people will come to my studio. Yeah. So the thing is to provide the services for every potential, like every person. So there is a trainer for every person, right? There is a style for every person. Right. And I think that just because one gym is popular, like Les Mills with group classes, it's popular, doesn't mean that everyone should imitate Les Mills, because then what will happen to the people who hate that kind of training? And I have a ton of people who have that kind of training. That's why I think that, for example,
that's why Planet Fitness is so. That's why Planet Fitness is so commercially successful, because Planet Fitness offers normal training for normal people. They have a lunk alarm. Have you heard about this? Where it starts if you start making noise. The whole gym goes nuts. Yeah, it's an alarm. As soon as you start screaming or exhausting too much, then it starts. Planet Fitness.
Wow.
Oh, you don't know? You got to check this out. Planet Fitness.
We don't
there are memes. There are memes around that culture. They serve, no joke, they serve bagels and pizza every Monday night in the gym.
Wow. See, there you go. And
there
so again, it's like
you're right.
CrossFit culture. There are some people that would do it. A lot of my clients are, for example, introverted people who are who prefer a very quiet atmosphere. They like working diligently on their technique, quietly by themselves. They achieve amazing results. Some of the best movers, seriously, because that person is they just want to be left alone in their own space, focused, and then be told how to be corrected with technique, and then they just do their own thing. And these people achieve amazing results. But if you put them in a gym environment, they will just wilt away. They will hate it. And they will not stick with it either. Like they will just not exercise. So that's why I believe that it's beautiful that we have so many different variations of training styles.
You're right. And I think what he was referring to is just the personal experience that people get when you go into training mode. You get all these sorts of benefits, all these neurotransmitters and all these hormones that are kicking in that will improve your dopamine, or that will increase your dopamine, and that will get you hooked on training to a certain degree. But if you overdo it, of course, and that's why I believe where I'm now sitting in, and you mentioned communal learning. That's why I'm really taking in all that information and then putting my own spin on it, and it's just beautiful. Kat, I think, wow, it's 2 hours now.
As always, amazing chat.
Wow.
Feel free to edit things out. Definitely edit things out if you need to.
I think we'll leave it in. I think it's one edit at the end and in the middle where I had to stop and everything. But but other than that, I think we'll leave it in. I have one final question for you, Kat. I'm setting up a roundtable where I want to have all kettlebell experts via Zoom, a roundtable podcast. So Steve Cotter joined. He said he's in. Chandler Marchman joined. He's in. Now, would you be interested in joining as well?
Are you kidding? If I can get to be on the same roundtable as Steve Cotter, I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night.
Okay. You know, I've asked Dan John as well, but Dan John, he initially declined, but I'm working on him. But so it's you, it's Steve, it's Chandler, it's me, so it's 4 already. So I'm gonna put a check mark.
We can start with a small one and then grow it.
Yeah, most definitely. I'm just, all the folks that I've connected with, I just want to ask them if they're in, and then we'll set up a doodle. So that's with 3 or 4 dates, and then where everybody connects with one date, that's the one that we will go for.
Great.
So you're in. Cool.
That would be fabulous.
That's awesome. So Kat, thank you very much. It was really, really awesome talking to you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You're just soaring on your strength right now. Keep going. It's amazing, Gregory. You are using your strength to improve the world, and I love it. I love it. You're in your niche.
Yeah, truly appreciate it, Kat. Awesome. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like it, consider subscribing if you want to see more kettlebell content. And if you're looking for a kettlebell program that builds you up from a beginner to a slowly advanced trainee in the course of about 3 months, and you maybe want to combine it with some easy to follow nutrition coaching because maybe you want to lose weight or you want to get in shape, then check out 90 Days of Kettlebells. You'll find the link in the description. 14-day free trial included.